In the wildest corner of the American West, the epic story of the Yellowstone grizzly bear continues to unfold. I'm Casey Anderson, and this story has defined my life. As a naturalist, I track Yellowstone grizzlies in every condition imaginable.
Now this is a little bit too close for comfort. He senses us, he's coming up to us right now.
Along the way, learning about the many risks that threaten this isolated population.
He's trying to get away from me, sliding through the snow. That boulder's keeping up with him, it might hit him.
Together with my best friend Brutus, a grizzly bear I raised from birth, we're giving you a rare glimpse of one of the world's most remarkable animals.
Well, that was easy.
Chronicling their lives to help ensure a bright future for the incredible Yellowstone grizzly.
It's 5 a.m. It's cold, windy, and miserable out here. I'm high above the tree line just outside of Yellowstone National Park, and I'm here to witness one of the most incredible grizzly bear behaviors, and maybe one of the most incredible behaviors in the animal kingdom. This is absolutely incredible. Just below me, there's 14 grizzly bears. They have cubs, moms, big boars, all kinds.
A view like this makes it all worthwhile, no matter the cold, the wind, or the altitude. From my very first encounter, I've been fascinated by this amazing animal. The more I learned, the more I wanted to tell their story. And the little-known tale of these Yellowstone grizzlies is truly one for the ages. But my passion goes beyond observing these bears in the wild. You see, my feelings towards grizzlies are a little bit different than most people. Maybe that's because my best friend weighs in at, about 800 pounds. That's him there. He's a brown bear named Brutus, and I've raised him since birth. Let me explain how it all started. I was born in Helena, Montana in 1975, the same year the Yellowstone grizzly bear was added to the endangered species list. Growing up surrounded by the Montana wilderness, it's no surprise I quickly learned about all the local wildlife. By Montana standards, this bear was very tame. Fast forward to college, and as I studied biology, I got more and more engaged in the wilder side of things. This is Patches the wolverine. And here's Hershey, Okie, and Brookie, 3 river otters I got to know well. In the winter, I ran a team of sled dogs, anything to be outside and working with animals. Before I knew it, I was the curator at a wildlife park, visiting an elephant orphanage in Kenya and hanging out with some amazing crocodiles. And yes, these jobs come with their occasional bumps and bruises, like the time a mountain lion gave me a pretty good thrashing. But hey, if it's your passion, you lick your wounds and turn the corner. And that led me straight to Brutus. Here he is, about 5 months old. Throughout my life, I've been called the animal magnet because animals always seem to find me. But with Brutus, well, it seems like we picked one another, sort of like friends on the playground, and we've been going strong ever since. When Brutus outgrew the house, we built him a sanctuary and started attracting visitors of all ages to teach them about grizzly bear biology and conservation. Brutus is a born performer, so we began filming him as part of our educational mission. Here he stars in a picnic parade scene in a public service video.
As you can see, we're on a movie set here demonstrating why it's so important to keep a clean camp in grizzly country.
Brutus has been a huge part of my life. He's sort of like, well, he actually was, my best man. Today, Brutus is a 6-year-old in the prime of his life. And at this point, we've been pals for so long that we developed a unique relationship. One that means lots of interaction, playing tag, and some playful wrestling. I even get an occasional grizzly kiss. All things that you would never think about doing under ordinary circumstances. In fact, the trust and respect that allows us to be this close is simply one of a kind. In other words, do not try this at home.
What a good boy.
Bears are among the most massive and powerful animals on Earth. And luckily for me, I can show you that strength close up and give you a look at the grizzly's basic anatomy.
That's so good.
That's a bigger headache.
One of the first things people are blown away by when they see Brutus is the size of his head.
Good. Good. Let's see. Oh.
He's got a 56-inch head.
That's as big as a beach ball.
Got a big head, Brutus.
And check out that muscular hump on the upper back. This helps differentiate a grizzly from other bears in the wild. From the side, you can see that Brutus measures 44 inches tall and 6 feet in length. But when they're on all fours, it's tough to see how big these bears really are.
Good boy. Let's show him how big you are. Up. Good. That's big. Give me a high five. Good boy. Give me another high five. Good boy.
When standing, Brutus towers 7 feet 8 inches tall. That's 7 inches taller than Shaquille O'Neal. In just a few more years, he'll be full grown, topping out at over 8 feet tall. So there you have it. If you ask me, it's a pretty impressive package. Now just imagine seeing all of this in the wild. Historically, grizzlies roamed the entire western half of North America, with a population numbering over 100,000 bears. But westward expansion of European settlers brought with it increased hunting and habitat destruction, and the grizzly population suffered drastic losses. Today, in the lower 48 states, only about 1,500 grizzlies remain in less than 2% of their former range. The Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, in and around Yellowstone National Park, is home to the southernmost grizzlies left in North America. This island population of about 600 grizzlies is hemmed in on all sides by roads and human settlement. And every year, I venture into the wilderness to see firsthand how Yellowstone grizzlies survive on this ecological island. I know that small, isolated populations are at constant risk of extinction due to sudden changes in climate and food sources, as well as disease and mismanagement. And once an island population is gone, natural recovery is nearly impossible. My journey begins just outside the western border of Yellowstone National Park, in an area I return to every year. I arrive at this cabin just in time to see the last act of winter. It's an important time for grizzlies as they begin to emerge after hibernation, and I know this place is loaded with bears this time of year.
This place I've been coming for the last 6 years every spring, and this is the most snow I've seen in my lifetime this late in the year.
The long, cold winter takes its toll on every animal in Yellowstone. During 5 months of hibernation, grizzlies will lose up to 30% of their body weight. Other species, like bison, wolves, and moose, are exposed to the winter's harshest elements as they constantly search for food.
In fact, this winter's been very hard. I'm a little bit concerned about how this is going to affect the grizzlies' behavior, and I'm kind of unsure what I'm going to find. This is prime springtime grizzly bear habitat in the Yellowstone ecosystem. Whether it's eating the plants, the grass, or its roots and bulbs, this semi-arid landscape is exactly where the grizzlies come for their first meals of the year. Though snow might make it difficult for the grizzlies to find food, it'll actually make it easier for me to find them because it's pretty much just all white out there, so their brown bodies will stick out very well.
Right there. I think that's our first bear. I might try to get a better view, but I've got to be extremely cautious and stay downwind. The second that bear catches a whiff of me coming, even from a mile away, he'll be gone. Here's the reason. Look closely at the profile of Brutus's face. You can see the grizzly's dish-shaped nose. To properly ID a grizzly like the one I'm tracking, you can't ignore this feature. And this nose is 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's.
I've picked up the big dark grizzly's tracks through this deep snow, and it's really nice because he's broke in the snow. But bears walk with a pigeon toe, so it's a little difficult to follow him. But I'm going to continue to follow him and pick up tracks from where he left off last night. Still tracking that big male grizz through the snow, and I found some of his scat.
By analyzing a bear's scat, you can see what he's eating this time of year.
And it's real obvious at first glance here that it's primarily biscuit root. It's all chewed up. You can see little chunks of the root through there.
This is a really good sign. The bears are finding something to eat despite the above average late season snowpack. But when I thought spring was finally on its way, winter just won't quit. And then things started getting really interesting.
Just spotted a hump of a grizzly bear, all covered with snow, out here in the sage, a couple hundred yards away. I'm gonna move in on this bear to a safe distance. I don't want to disturb his natural behavior. Maybe he'll move in closer to me.
Okay, here we go. I found a spot downwind in the trees, and that bear is coming right in towards me.
And just to see his black contrast against the snow is just so cool. You can see his hump. He comes up and he's got snow all over his face.
He doesn't have a clue I'm here, and I'd like to keep it that way. Surprised grizzlies often charge, and he could take me out for good with a single swat of his paw. No bear could get by without some serious claws, essential for digging. Brutus's claws are shorter than most, but wild grizzlies have claws up to 4 inches long. That's like a steak knife on each finger. The front paw checks in at 8 inches by 8 inches. Think dinner plates, and you get the idea. Luckily for me, this bear has got his eyes on the prize underground, and I'm able to observe him safely from a distance.
Grizzly bear has to eat almost 20,000 calories a day, no matter what the weather's doing. This guy right now, I can see the mud flying. He's digging and this mud's flying up everywhere over the snow. It's really cool. The snow's really coming down now. He's actually bulldozing his nose through the snow to smell the ground a little better.
Oh yeah, he just grabbed something and pulled it out of the ground.
It's a pretty good situation. The wind's blowing in my face. The sagebrush is kind of high, so if I keep low, he can't see me. But he is moving my direction, so I gotta really keep my eye on him. I don't want him to disappear in the sage and then all of a sudden pop up really close.
Keep on moving, buddy. Good, he's gonna walk right on by without even noticing me. That's just the way I like it.
Well, here's the excavation of that bear I was just watching out here in the sage, and look at this. I mean, this bear did some serious digging.
They've used their nose, they've come to this area, they're smelling things under the ground, and it's really obvious what they're smelling. If you look right here, that's a rodent nest.
It looks like that bear pulled up a vole, a little rodent that burrows beneath the soil. It's a small snack for a big animal, but that's a good source of some much-needed calories.
They can really get in there and really move some earth. What they're looking for is roots, rodents, and bulbs.
You'd never guess that bears are foraging for newly sprouted plants. These are spring beauty corms. They're like little potatoes. And here, some biscuit root, a few dandelion leaves, and my personal favorite, wild onion. Another vital source of food is winter kill, the animals that have died during the harsh winter and are now slowly decomposing. Bears, with their highly sensitive noses, are often the first to find them. Once a bear tucks into one of these, it won't be leaving until it licks the bones clean. But for the grizzlies in this area, their true bread and butter this time of year is mostly underground.
This actually reminds me a lot of what Brutus does back home, tearing up the ground. That's what grizzly bears love.
We can't get too close to grizzlies digging in the wild, so to show you how it's done, I'm gonna give my friend Brutus a similar challenge. He's not a bull eater, but he loves salmon, a staple food source for many wild bears. Let's see what happens when we invite him in for a closer look.
So I've hid some salmon up here in the ground. You can see he's using that nose to try to find it underneath, just like they do in the wild when they're looking for the bulls. Now he's found the exact spot I hid the salmon. And what he's doing, he's trying to get that scent all over his body to mask his own. Out in the wild, grizzly bears smell horrible because every dead thing, stinky thing they come along to do this behavior right here is roll around in it, cover up their scent. So when they're sneaking up on prey, they smell like a dead thing, not an actual bear, so things don't get afraid of them. Brutus has used his sense of smell, identified a food source underneath the ground. He's using those big claws and this big muscle mass right here that powers those powerful forearms that makes grizzlies excellent excavators. Now, he's doing something really neat right now that I've actually seen a lot of grizzly bears do. He doesn't want that salmon to get any more dirty, so he actually flips it up on his paw, lifts it up, and utilizes it just like a dinner plate. Now, he's found most of the small chunks of salmon, but the mother lode very deep in the ground, and I know he's smelling it right now. Now he's really digging in. You can really see that humping working. You can see his claws working. So Brutus has found the mother lode. He's dug 3 feet in the ground to get it. Now he's using his hole for a bed because it's nice and cool in the sunshine, huh, buddy? What a good boy.
It's May and I'm heading back into the field to observe more springtime grizzly behavior. I'm also hoping to catch up again with that same dark grizzly bear out in this open meadow. I'm staying low to keep out of sight. And this is really unusual.
A pair of sandhill cranes have come in around this bear and they're kind of following him around. It's really interesting. The bear's doing all the work and they're just kind of hanging out waiting for something to come out for him to eat. So this game the cranes are playing is a little bit dangerous. I mean, they're literally playing chicken with the grizzly bear.
At last, the weather thaws and spring arrives in Yellowstone. This means many more bears, including female grizzlies with newborn cubs, will leave their dens for the summer. To understand the health of this island population of grizzlies as a whole, we've got to get a sense of how these new cubs are faring. I'm wondering about 2 yearling cubs that I saw last spring. Did they survive the winter? And will they have left their mother's side this year? I'm up early, always the best time to catch good grizzly behavior, and I've set my sights on 2 bears less than a mile away. It looks like another pair of sandhill cranes are in the area as well. I'm going to get a little bit closer and check it out.
I just came up the hill here, right here in the mud. I see a really good set of tracks here, and in fact, there's 2 sets of tracks. And as I look at them, it looks like they're probably subadults, just by the size.
Adolescent bears are known as subadults until they reach maturity.
Very obvious grizzly tracks. One way you can tell is the straight line of their toes, and then the obvious big claws sticking out a good inch away from the toes here. And as I followed them up, just up here, there's actually a big set of what looks like to be a big, large male grizzly bear moving in that direction. And then I look up, and just over here, I see the 2 subadults and they're walking over here feeding up on this plateau.
Amazing. These are the cubs I saw last year. I know bears that return year after year like clockwork to the same spot at the same time. Here's a look at the same bears alongside their mother last spring. It looks like these guys have made it. They've come back to the spot where Mom taught them to forage. It's a good sign these young bears are doing well. I get myself in a good, safe place where I can watch these two adolescents from above.
What a point of view. I mean, I literally have front row seats to grizzly bears out there digging in the ground. This is like one of the coolest opportunities that anybody could have. And what subadults are there? Bears that have just been kicked away from mother. They could be 2, 3, 4 years old. But often once they're kicked away from their mother, they remain in these sibling groups. In the beginning of next year, they'll actually separate and live out the remainder of their life solitary. Now they're zigzagging around, actually kind of keeping their distance. And just now, they came together. Just like typical siblings, they got in a little bit of a fight. What's going to happen is these two bears are going to get mature, more solitary, and then they're going to go their separate ways. We're already seeing signs of the fact that they don't really want to be around each other while they're eating. Sharing's not in the grizzly way. Now these subadults are just like teenagers. They're actually just graduated high school and they're going off to college. It's the first time they can't depend on mom anymore. So this is a big reality check for them. They have to find food on their own and they don't have the protection of mother from the big boars. So this is actually one of their most dangerous years.
Suddenly, the adolescent's behavior changes. They appear nervous, on edge, standing on their hind legs. And here we go. The big boar whose tracks I saw earlier is coming right over the crest of the hill.
You listen to them, they're doing whooping. That means they're uncomfortable. They go, that means I'm upset. I'm not feeling really good with the situation. I feel like right now I should be doing that because I don't feel real good with the situation.
Adult male grizzlies are not social animals. They don't like competition for food or a female's affection. And these adolescents are simply no match for this huge boar. Will it be fight or flight?
Now I've got myself in a crazy situation. The two subadults went over the hill, out of sight, then suddenly they bolted towards me. They come within about 35 yards away. And now I see that big male bear's moving up behind them on the ridge.
It looks like these guys know this isn't a fair fight. Thankfully, they're distracted and they don't even notice me. They're covering their own hides and heading straight for the forest. But my situation just got worse. I'm armed only with a can of bear spray and I have no chance of outrunning this big boar, who in a burst of speed can run up to 40 miles per hour.
I've got a territorial male, showing that he's the boss. And I don't want him to show me that he's the boss.
It's easy to see when Brutus opens his mouth wide, I don't want to anger this bear. A grizzly's mouth gate measures around 12 inches and holds 4 2-inch canines. And they have the bite force of over 1,200 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a bowling ball.
Now this is a little bit too close for comfort. He senses us, he's coming up to us right now. He doesn't know where we are, he can't smell us. So I have to really soon let that bear know that I'm a human. And I think right now might be the time.
Hey, bear.
And just like I thought, as soon as he identifies us as a human, he wants nothing to do with us. He couldn't smell us. He was moving in really at a dangerous distance. So I had to stand up, say, hey bear, identify myself as a human. And just like any bear should in this ecosystem be afraid of humans and get out of here.
That was a close call. Scaring a bear off like that is always the last resort. These bears will need their space as they look for mates and continue to fatten up during the early spring. I'll come back in a few weeks in the thick of Yellowstone's summer tourist season for one of the grizzly's favorite traditions, the pursuit of newborn elk calves. Summer's arrived and my year-long odyssey into the lives of Yellowstone grizzlies has brought me to the center of their island population. Yellowstone National Park, the world's first national park. This time of year, the entire ecosystem hums with life. It's hard to imagine the grizzly population is still at risk. Although food may be plentiful and weather kind, grizzlies confront a new challenge every day during the warmer months. People. Nearly 3 million tourists arrive mostly during the peak summer months, and managing them while preserving the grizzly's natural behavior is a big job. Today I'm going to soak up the experience of your typical park visitor. And that means driving the park's roads and looking for people, or more specifically, a bear jam. A gridlock of cars and pedestrians vying for a glimpse of a real live grizzly bear. And it doesn't take me long to find one. The source of all this attention is this beautiful blonde grizzly.
What an amazing opportunity for all these people. Right above them, only 30 yards away, we have a young female grizzly foraging, eating grasses and dandelions. She's moving about, and I've actually watched her go over in an area with some rocks. She was turning over the rocks. I could see her paws really close, and she's probably ants underneath those rocks.
Now you can see what a grizzly bear can do as far as generating excitement here alongside the road in Yellowstone Park. And this is more than likely most of these people's first time ever seeing a grizzly bear. What an amazing thing it is to see at such a close distance.
I've heard that watching the bears in the park wasn't always like this. In fact, fallout from how visitors used to interact with the bears nearly led to the Yellowstone grizzly's demise in the 1970s. That's when their population reached a dangerous low point of around 200 individuals. I wanted to get to the bottom of the story, so I decided to ask Park Ranger Mike Leach to fill in the details.
What are you looking at out there?
Well, we've actually got a grizzly bear here across the flats in that meadow, out on a bison carcass. This wolf pack took down this bison probably about 48 hours ago, and we've been watching this great interaction. There's two wolves out there competing with this bear, and right now this bear is not letting those wolves get much food, even though they risk their life to take that animal down. That's one of the things that's really exciting, why people stay for so long, is you really get to learn a lot about the predator-prey and the predator-predator dynamic.
So I know it hasn't always been like this. I mean, this bear's out here eating natural food, but that's not always been the case, has it?
No, things have drastically changed here since the park's establishment in 1872. It didn't take very long for this to become a bear park. By the early 1890s, people were coming to Yellowstone to see bears in this park. Most of our garbage dumps throughout the park had become bear viewing areas until the big management decision in 1970 to close the garbage dumps.
I learned from Mike that when the dumps closed, it was like asking the bears to quit their addiction to human food cold turkey. As a result, grizzly-human conflicts skyrocketed, and over 200 grizzlies had to be killed or removed from the park. Finally, in 1975, the bears were listed as a threatened species and started their long road to recovery. In the process, bears returned to their natural behaviors and wild food sources. Today, their population's grown, but human-related conflicts still pose a major threat. And when careless human actions lead to a conflict with a grizzly, it is the bear that pays the price. It will often be permanently removed from the population. That's why Brutus and I team up to educate the public to be bear aware in the unique way that only we can do.
Stay in this position, you don't make a noise.
Donating our time to a series of public service announcements that fuse entertainment and information. Mike also sees hope for the bear's future.
I firmly believe that the single most important piece of grizzly habitat is the human heart. It's in the heart of these people. We can protect them here in the park, we can have federal protections, but if we don't want them here as citizens, they're not going to be here.
As I watch the drama between the wolves, grizzly, and bison unfold, I'm reminded that true wilderness doesn't come easy. Good science is a critical part of this effort, and the radio collar on this bear allows scientists to track its movements for their research.
The wolves that killed that bison last night are coming back to take what's theirs, and that bear's not moving. She's perched up on the carcass, and the wolves are moving in, and she's not budging. This is unbelievable. I mean, this is right from the roadside. I mean, I'm not the only one witnessing this. I mean, everybody here is literally having a National Geographic moment right from the road. I mean, this is really awesome.
This incredible display continues until dark. And then, with the full moon rising, it's time to turn in for the night. Tomorrow I'll be up before dawn, seeking out an elk herd, and a hungry grizzly or two to give them a run for their money. Of abundance, and as well as so sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to find a quiet place to call your own.
Stayed in the tent at the campground. It's 5 a.m. I'm gonna do something a little more my style. We drive up to this trailhead, and it's taking me up to this big high country plateau where there's a lot of elk and a lot of grizzly bears. I really hope to get back there, away from the people, and witness some grizzly bears chasing some elk calves.
I can see why they call this North America's Serengeti. There's a big herd of elk, a bunch of bison, and some pronghorn. And it's early summer, everything's green, they're out there and they're feeling good, they're playing. But little do they know, on the very far side of that plateau, there's a big grizz moving down the ridge, and he's moving down very rapidly. And what that's telling me, he's like really on the hunt, he's really walking fast.
He's moving right to a herd of a bunch of elk.
Now, I don't think a grizzly bear is fast enough to actually outrun and catch an adult elk, but those calves are easy quarry.
This radio-collared bear is all business, and the fearful elk herd huddles together. He's going in after them, but it's going to be hard to pull a fast one on this herd. It doesn't hurt to have so many pairs of alert eyes. But this grizzly doesn't give up, and this is unusual. There's an older bull outside the herd, and he's not easily frightened. In fact, he's making a stand. But the bear goes in for the kill. The grizzly reconsiders the icy swim. That's quite possibly the greatest escape I've ever seen. The sheer quickness and power of the grizzly never ceases to amaze me. Let's see if Brutus can give us a demo. Okay, Brutus, it's time for the Grand Prix. On your marks, set, let's go. Come on, good, good, come on. Let's go, come on. Good boy, good boy. Grizzlies have tremendous acceleration in short bursts. In 3 strides, they can reach nearly 40 miles per hour. Now that's about the speed of a racehorse and much faster than a human. They can't sustain this speed over long distances because their massive muscular bodies are built for sprinting, but it's enough in a pinch to surprise prey and score a nice meal. All 800 pounds of Brutus can really get up and go. Luckily for me, I'm pretty quick, and I've learned enough to never reenact this scene in the wild. Good boy. It's late summer now, and I'm making my way into this remote alpine world just as the last of the snow melts. I'm hoping to spot an annual migration that plays a critical role in the life and success of the Yellowstone grizzly bear. The stakes are high. As winter approaches, time is running out for them to store calories. From the stories I've heard, this is the stuff of legends, but I've never seen it with my own eyes. But I spot something else first.
So I'm up here at 12,000 feet, and I ran into a large herd of elk. They're actually walking down the ridge here.
Seeing elk way up here is a bit of a surprise, but there's plenty of vegetation to eat and relief from the heat and the bugs below. But I've got my eye out for one bug in particular, the army cutworm moth. It arrives daily this time of year by the thousands. Each moth is loaded with valuable protein and fat, so where there are cutworm moths, there are sure to be grizzlies close behind.
Wow, this is so awesome. That mountain is crawling with grizzly bears. I can see a sow with 3 cubs, 2 big boars, and a couple other individuals. Right now I can count 9 total grizzly bears. I'm gonna climb up on this ridge, get above them in a safe spot, and see if I can get a closer look.
Judging by all those bears, I think the moths have arrived. The amazing thing is that the cutworm moths travel hundreds of miles every year from the Great Plains in search of a very specific food source.
And this is why the moths have come here. They've migrated from the Great Plains to feed on the nectar of these alpine wildflowers. And they actually do it at night. During the heat of the day, they retreat to the cracks of the rocks, the talus slope, and that's when the grizzly bears excavate them and then eat them.
No time to stop and smell the flowers. I'm continuing up the ridge towards the viewpoint, and it's tough going. But the hard work pays off. I'm right where I want to be at a safe distance, taking in a high-altitude grizzly experience.
Just out here in the talus is a big male grizzly. He's got a bunch of big scars on his neck and his face. More than likely from fighting with other big males in this area over prime food areas. Right now he's really using that big hump and those big claws and those big forearms and moving some big rocks in the talus fields.
It's estimated that a grizzly could eat up to 40,000 moths in one day.
He actually picks them up one by one, kind of like an anteater. He flicks his tongue out, bang, 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 picks each one of them up one by one.
This bear is only the beginning. Over the next few hours, I see more bears than I've ever seen before in a single day. Nearly 20 individuals. And believe me, with that many bears in sight, it's an action-packed show.
This morning is ridiculous. I've got bears down below me feeding, and just out here in the snowfield I have 2 other bears wrestling and playing.
But with so many aggressive males competing for prime moth real estate, tensions run high. These 2 big boars chase one another for nearly 20 minutes. They're both aiming to be king of the mountain, and neither one's backing down. And just when I think things are settling down, a grizzly upslope kicks a massive boulder down toward this big man.
He's trying to get away from me, sliding through the snow. That boulder's keeping up with him and might hit him.
As wild and unfamiliar as it is up here, I can't help but think of my friend Brutus as these grizzlies display their incredible skills.
Watching these bears move big, massive amount of rocks makes me wonder how strong Brutus really is.
I saw from afar how the high alpine grizzlies make quick work of finding food in boulder fields like this one. Now I want to get a close-up look using Brutus. I'm baiting the challenge by placing salmon underneath the rocks.
It's your first time on a talus slope, isn't it, buddy? What do you think of this talus? I'm digging it, look for food, just like the wild bears do. Look. Yeah. Dig around in it, look for food. Come on, Brutus, come on. There you go. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Good boy. Yay. Good boy, Broody. You're doing it just like the wild bears do it. Yes, you are. It's a good boy. It's hard work, huh? You are a klutz. Oh, look at you, tenderfoot grizzly. You weren't raised doing this, were you? I don't know if I want to be on the downhill side of you. You're a little more clumsy than the wild bears. What a good boy.
It's a lot of hard work. The bears up on the talus slopes don't get water delivered to them. No. Good boy.
Okay, so Brutus passed the first test. He could clearly flip medium-sized boulders with ease and detect the food reward underneath. But how much weight can he actually move? It's time to find out with a second trial. A series of large boulders, each heavier than the next. Okay, Brutus, let her rip.
Something underneath these rocks. Yep. Good boy, good.
try it the hard way. Not hard for you, though. That's too easy. We'll try one a little tougher than that. The next boulder is even larger, but Brutus doesn't seem to mind. Oh, good boy. I have a feeling you'd roll over a bus for salmon, huh? It's a good boy. Now we gotta make it tough for you. That was way too easy. It's time for the real test. I need some help setting Brutus's salmon reward underneath this massive boulder, so I decide to see how much it weighs. This big guy weighs almost 1,800 pounds.
Rudy, think you move this big rock? There's something underneath it. Move this big rock.
Huh? See how strong you are. Yeah, good. That was easy. Yeah, there's a big treat underneath there. That boulder almost weighs a ton. A good boy, Brutus. That was a good boy. Unbelievable. And he didn't even break a sweat. Back in the high country, the strong midday sun beats down, and the bears with their bellies full of moths find a comfortable nook to take a little siesta. Not a bad idea. I discover a sweet little cave out of the wind and go about setting up my camp stove for a hot drink. I like my coffee extra strong. The only problem is there's not enough to share with the cave's other visitors. As I was making my coffee, I noticed a big pile of grizzly scat off to the side here. It's obvious looking at it that the bears are gorging themselves with moths right now. And after I have my coffee, I'm gonna go find one of those moths and see what it tastes like. I figure when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And when on a grizzly-covered mountaintop, why not taste the richest protein source around? Watch out, cutworms. Here I come. Without the help of that powerful grizzly nose, it takes a while to find just one moth, let alone the thousands that these bears need. But finally, I find one.
Here it goes, down the hatch. It's actually pretty good. Tastes like peanuts.
Now that my moth cravings are satisfied, I head down the mountain towards camp. But what's that in the distance? Wow, what a lucky break. We're actually seeing the future of Yellowstone's grizzlies right here, a mother with 2 cubs. And I can tell from their size that these tiny cubs are less than a year old, and this is their first alpine trek. I settle in to watch the show.
This is just the way I like to view grizzly bears. I got a big cliff between us. It's completely safe. The wind is in my advantage. They can't smell me. I can completely watch them do their natural behavior. And this is really cool because I'm sitting here watching Mama teach the next generation of cubs how to dig out moths. And these are the bears that are going to be coming back to this mountain.
I'm impressed. These little guys have really got this down. But they still got a few things to learn about keeping their balance and watching out for each other on these loose rocks. This little guy, he's riding the wave. Look out, rock! All this eating can be serious hard work. I think it's time for a break.
After a long, hard day following Mom around on the mountainside and digging, the little cubs have curled up in the sunshine and are taking a nap.
They'll need all the rest they can get. But Mom says it's time to head for the hills. As these cubs cruise on to greener pastures, I'm struck by the fact that the Yellowstone grizzly survival rests on a precarious balance. In this case, climate change could affect the timing and location of the moth's migration, leading to a major disruption in the grizzly's food supply. It's a striking example of how small things add up and how island populations are vulnerable to a multitude of factors, including human impact, weather fluctuation, and natural disaster. Mother Nature is hinting that I'm not invincible either.
We've got a big thunderstorm moving in here. It could be extremely dangerous with all the exposure and the lightning. I've had a great time up here, saw a lot of grizzly bears, a lot of unique behaviors. So I think I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna head back down to camp.
This experience will stay with me for a lifetime. Yellowstone grizzlies have come a long way, but they're not out of the woods yet. An island population is never truly safe from extinction. But maybe ensuring their survival starts with action. For starters, we can reconnect this island territory to the remainder of North America's grizzly country. We can also continue monitoring the health of the grizzly population and the overall fitness of the Yellowstone ecosystem as a whole. Someday, the grizzly may reclaim a good portion of its natural range. Until then, Brutus and I will keep on telling their story and writing our own. We're already looking forward to the next chapter.